All right. Hello again, and congrats to Nancy for winning the free video analysis. I'm going to put myself up into this little corner really quick. You sent me a bunch of great videos to work with, but I think the best one in particular is going to be right here, which I will zoom in on. This is Nancy. Hello. You're currently running a 2-mile runner. So what I'm going to do is break down your form as we run through this into 4 different stages. I mainly do sprint work, but I can also do distance analyses as well. And then I'm going to give you some advice moving forward on your training based on what I see here. All right. So congrats again for winning. And this has actually been really fun for me. Thank you for letting me do this and post it and share it and all that jazz. Cool. So let's check you out right here. I'm going to break it down into 4 phases of your running. We have the heel, basically the heel placement phase, the stance phase or mid stance, basically when you're completely over top of yourself, the toe off phase, and then the mid swing phase. All right. So I'll try and get you paused right here on heel. When you're placing your heel. Now, one thing you have to look for is a lot of people put their heel way out in front, even compared to this person here to your right in the orange. I don't know if you can see my cursor right here, but I hope you can. Their heel is a little bit out in front of them, and that's going to act as a braking force, whereas you do a really good job of getting that foot down underneath you. So that's going to be great for your running economy, and that's just how much energy you use per a given speed. Running economy, because you're not applying any braking forces in every step. So in terms of your heel stance or your heel placement, solid work there. Don't worry about that. All right, nice and tall in that position as well. Sorry, there's a thunderstorm. I don't know if you could hear that. All right, and then once we go to mid stance, right, that is when you're actually pressing down on your leg, right directly over top of yourself. And this actually gives us something to work with, which we like. We like opportunities for growth, right? And you'll notice if you watch your hips, when you watch the replay through, they kind of stagger back and forth. All right. It's called a hip dip when you run. And generally I'd have to test it to actually be sure, because if you're not testing, you're guessing. But I would assume that means you have a weak gluteus minimus. All right, or glute medius. So basically what happens is if your hips aren't strong enough to support your body weight over that stance, your hips kind of collapse, and that can be considered as an energy leak by some people, basically saying if you strengthen that might help you a little bit with your running economy, and can probably also prevent some hip injuries such as IT band syndrome or IT band tightness type stuff like that, right? So just generally good to have a stable hip position for both injury prevention and performance moving forward. So I'll address how to fix that a little bit later. After mid stance, once we address, how your knees are kind of knocking together as a result of the hips kind of bowing, which, by the way, it's also known as Trendelenburg syndrome when it's really bad side to side, but yours isn't that bad. We're still going to address it. The next phase, boom, right there, your toe off phase. When your toe is actually leaving the ground. I have to say, Nancy, right here, you are very tall in a nice tall position, which is fantastic. Sorry, there's a flash flood alert. In a very tall position, which is great. And your toe off is not only behind you, which is fantastic. Some people bounce and waste a lot of energy going vertical up and down the track. Instead, you're putting all your energy behind you. It's like a motorboat, right? The farther behind you, you put your energy, generally the better. With a lot of people, like myself, for example, in order to reach that position, that extension behind you, I have tight hip flexors that pull my hips out of alignment. You don't. You maintain a nice tall posture with, aside from the side to side on the hips, in terms of pelvic tilt, right? Are your hips not bending side to side, but are they rotating forward or back? Really solid in this position. You have a great toe off. I will say, though, while your posterior chain is great, while your running mechanics behind you are fantastic, in the anterior side, your knee drive is a little low. All right. So I'd say that I know that's generally a result of the speed you're traveling. The faster you run, the higher your knee drive is going to go, right? But it's usually effective to raise it a little more if you can. So I know that depends on the speed, and especially for a taller runner, it might be a little difficult, but just something to keep in mind as well. And that kind of gets into the mid swing phase that I said was next, is looking at how high your knee drives through during the mid swing phase. So that's something to look at as well. So we have the hip posture, right? And the knee drive, so far we're going to address, along with just general strength during the stance phase appears to be lacking. So what that means is the more strength training you do, the stronger your legs and hips and calves are, your quads, right? The more energy you'll be able to return once you absorb it in the stance and return it behind you like a spring, right? Through strength training and plyometric training, even for distance runners, we can increase your running economy, running efficiency. And the way that happens, the way that works, why that works, is because your muscles and tendons are like a spring. And the stiffer the spring, the more energy can be not only absorbed and redirected into the track, but the more quickly it can be absorbed and reintroduced into the track. So if we strengthen the hips, strengthen your legs, and made each step a little stiffer, as well as got that knee up maybe 5 degrees more, I think that would significantly help your stride length. If we improve your stride length by 1 inch, you multiply that over the course of 3,200 meters, and you're starting to talk about some real improvements, right? So something to keep in mind for there. We'll address that in the little recommendations at the end. One more thing, your stride frequency, as we're seeing through here, is a little slow. In general, for a distance runner, I recall the recommended strides per minute to be 180 strides. I'm sorry, strides per second. strides per minute. I had it right the first time. 180 strides per minute, about 3 strides per second. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you're probably at about 2/3, it looks like, that recommended stride length. So that's probably related to your height as well. It looks like you're a good tall runner, which is really good in general for any sort of running. But I might recommend trying to, if you listen to music when you train, listen to something whose frequency is a little bit higher. And that may be funky to get used to at first, but try training at 150, 160, 170, 180 beats per minute, strides per minute. All right. A step is each step, left, right, left, right. A stride is every other. So left, left, left. All right. 180 strides per minute. Cool. So yeah, we talked about stride length. We talked about some things that can go into your stride rate, which stride rate, stride length, make up running speed, right? And if we can run at a faster speed, given the same economy, the amount of energy we use for that speed, you're going to run faster, period, bar none, right? So let's talk about how to get you there. All right. We talked about that stance phase in particular. And I think what would probably really benefit you, it looks like you're comfortable running. It looks like you train a lot, probably in the slower range. This is just a guess. Again, I haven't talked to you too much about this, but I might recommend starting off with strength training, plyometric training, and some faster tempos in your program. I think that kind of contrast, especially for you, based on what I'm seeing here, could be really beneficial. So what I'd recommend is probably 2 times a week strength training, specifically the lower body, legs, hips, glute med, with 1 time a week of light plyometrics to start. Okay, that might be Monday, Thursday, Monday, Friday. So, sparsed out throughout the week, strength training of your lower body and core. All right. 1 time a week of plyometrics, just impact jumping, right? I like my favorite, which would probably be beneficial for you, are pogo hops. Pogo hops are just standing tall, bouncing like you're doing a jump rope style thing, right? Nice and tall. You're in that tall position anyway when you're running, so you want to train accordingly, right? You don't need to do a full depth squat. You'll be a half depth is fine for a distance runner. All right. So strength training 2 times a week, plyometrics 1 time a week with some faster paced interval training. I'd usually recommend that you go at goal pace, but in this case, I'd probably say, hey, we're going to take you even higher into the lactate range. If I were your coach, I'd say probably try and do some 30-second sprints with a 3-minute recovery, some real HIIT training for maybe 4 or 5 sets. That will, aside from boosting your VO2 max just as the same as a long distance run would, well, now we're also going to get that similar strength and speed adaptation, which is, again, faster cadence, faster knee lift, and that will accompany stronger steps as well. All right. So that's for the first month. I would recommend that, probably 3 weeks of increasing the difficulty, followed by a week deload. And then I'd probably recommend another month of the strength training and plyos built in on top of that as well, actually. So probably for you, 2 months, the first month, 2 times a week, Monday, Thursday is strength training, 1 time a week, plyometrics with some HIIT training once a week, right? You don't want to do it multiple times a week. Lactate will burn out your central nervous system. And then take a deload week, come back the next month and provide 3 weeks of 3 times a week strength training. Again, legs, core, with 2 times a week plyometrics. Okay. And again, plyometrics, you need 48 to 72 hours to recover from. So I'd really recommend that you sparse these out Monday, Friday, or Monday, Thursday kind of thing. If you go Monday, Wednesday, Friday strength, maybe you could combine this with Monday, Friday plyometrics as well, right? That'd probably be a very effective training session there. And of course, you're always going to be running and you're going to be on the track. I highly recommend in this case for the second month doing tempos, all right, at your goal pace. So whatever your goal pace might be, if you're training for the 2 mile, set your goal pace, break that into smaller numbers and start doing intervals at that pace specifically. You probably won't be able to hold your goal pace for the entire distance of your race, or else you need a new goal, right? So set it, maybe 5-10% where you're currently above, whatever your goal may be. Break that down into manageable chunks, maybe 400s, maybe 800s, and train at that tempo. Maybe do for an 800, that'll probably be about 2.5-3 minutes of work. And then you could do a walk or rest for 1 to 2 minutes. All right, cool. So that's my general training recommendation. One quick thing before I go in terms of specific exercises, I usually let people figure it out on their own, and you can always hit me up for more information on this. But I definitely recommend something for your glute medius. So that can be standing lateral leg raises. They have those lateral glute, machines like this, the really awkward ones in the gym. Might in this case are probably very beneficial for you. You can lay on your side and do leg raises as well with ankle weights. Even if you start to get good at it, it'll probably burn, and then you're going to want to incorporate that strength into the running pattern as well. So you want to be in that tall position, maybe with a side plank type exercise. Might be effective for that too. A side plank, and then working into your ability to go one leg up at a time while in that side plank position, holding that nice neutral pelvic position. Cool. So I know that was a lot. I'll email that all to you as well, Nancy. Congrats again on winning. You look like you're a pretty competent, pretty solid runner right here. But I think that strength training, a little bit of plyometric training, some stride rate training could probably bring you to be even a little bit better than where you're currently at, right? That's kind of exciting. If I were your coach, I'd definitely be excited with this stuff too. So thank you again, Nancy, for letting me do this. This has been a pleasure. Good luck training, and feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear about any progress as a result of this program. Spicer Sports Performance, Coach Seth with a free video analysis signing off. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching.